Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson, and as promised, I'm here to spend some time with you doing live coaching. So I thought I'd check in a few minutes early to see who's around and to welcome you, and then I will welcome your questions and anything that I might be able to support you with. This is your opportunity to let me know. Do me a favor, if you're here with me, I see that some of you are already here with me. If you could just give me a thumbs up or a heart so I know that you can hear me and that you can see me just fine, that would be great. Or you can post a comment. Let me know where you're from. It's always great to see the wide variety of places that people are from. Thank you. That people are from here on Facebook. It's just amazing to me. So I am, let me just make sure. I just got back from the gym where we had a really hard workout. Hi, Christy. I've been doing CrossFit for the last year, a kind of modified CrossFit, because CrossFit itself can be really challenging, and I'm not in the kind of shape that I need to be in to be able to do it full on, but just got in from the gym. Hi, Andrea from Chile. And Arlene from Saskatchewan, oh my goodness, and Mary from Ireland, look at this. Yanka from Phoenix, Arizona, going to be there later this year, Yanka. And Cynthia from Rome, Georgia. Hi, thanks, so glad you're all here. So yeah, I went to do my workout this morning, and it was such a hard workout. Had to do 10 rounds of rowing, and then 15 push-ups and 20 squats, and I had to do 10 rounds of those. And I'm telling you, by round number 7, I was ready to just like call it quits. But the gal who was working out next to me is 10 years older than I am, and she was keeping pace. And I thought, this is where competition is a good thing, because I thought there's no way in hell I'm giving up. If she doesn't give up, I need to do this. I just need to stay with it and modify it. So I did, and it's a great form of self-care to move your body. And maybe that's a good way to start this live coaching hour, is to just invite you to, hi, Italy and Mexico, Melissa from Mexico, hi, hola. It's a great way to just maybe start the conversation on Monday with the amazing benefits of moving your body. I started getting back on track by just walking every day, almost every day, for a couple of years. I mean, that's really how I got started. Started with walking a quarter of a mile, then a half a mile, then a mile, and worked my way up to about 4 miles, which is about an hour, and that's what I could fit into my day. And I naturally began to lose weight. I felt better. I felt connected to nature. So even getting out for 10 or 15 minutes, getting outside into fresh air, and there was, I don't know if you saw the article that I posted on Facebook about how looking at birds and trees has now been shown to really improve mental health. There's a really great article. If you scroll down a little bit, you can read it. I was so happy to read that. I thought, no wonder I feel so good every time I'm staring at my bird feeder, or I'm looking out the window at the trees that are all around here. It's such an important act of self-care. And today when I left the gym, I decided to kind of I wanted to change things up. And a year ago, I think I wrote about this in a blog. A year ago, I thought, I need to do the opposite of what I normally do. And I talked about that during the tapping room, I'm looking at emergency room, fish tanks in the emergency room. Yeah, Cindy, look at the fish. Although I have to say, I feel bad for the fish in the tanks. That bothers me, but you're right. It's very peaceful, and you know what? Those little fish have souls, and they probably came into this lifetime to provide peace to the people in the peace and calming to the people in the emergency room. I really decided during the Tapping World Summit, I was saying that I talked about doing the opposite of what you'd normally do, which is why I joined CrossFit, because there's no way in hell I would normally do that. Let alone go out and work out with people. I'm just I tend to be more introverted, I think, as I get older. I mean, I'm an extrovert, but I tend to kind of like to work out by myself. And So I did the opposite of what I normally do. And a year later, I've made some really lovely friends, and I'm working out with people who are really committed to staying healthy. And boy, I'll tell you, it's so important to get the body up and out and moving. It makes a huge difference. And so that's my little invitation to you today. Now that it's just after noon, my first level of coaching is to really encourage you to get outside and move your body today. Get out into nature. Sherry loves CrossFit. Sherry, do you do CrossFit? Let me know right in the comment. And if you do, tell me how long you've been doing CrossFit and how long it took you to squat below parallel, because it's taken me a year to figure out how to do that. You know, where you squat down and your butt is below your knees. That's not an easy thing, but it's important as you get older. So anyway, let me say hi to some people, and then we'll start with the coaching. Yes. Hi, Terry Stanton Brown, just my new friend. Shelley loves walking. Ciao from Italy. Hello. And is it Temecula? I don't know how to say that, Cindy. California. From the UK, Laura. I was just talking to my friend Robert Holden this morning, who's in the UK, talking about getting together. And hi, Amparo from Spain. I would like to know how to feel better. I'm always depressed. Thank you. God bless you. Well, God bless you too, my dear. And let's start with you. Let's start with, I'd like to know how to feel better. So, Amparo, I hope I'm saying your name right. The first thing as a coach, when someone talks about being depressed, if you feel like you've been depressed for 2 weeks or more at a time, I think it's a really good idea to see somebody, a well-trained therapist, psychologist, somebody who specializes in depression, to just be evaluated, to just see what's going on. That's a therapy issue. It's not a coaching issue. And it's always where I go first, is really encouraging you to get some professional support first, so that we make sure that you're, if in fact you are clinically depressed, you get the kind of support, that you get the kind of help you need. Here's why that's important. And I'm just trying to pull up here. Here's why that's important. Because if you don't get the depression treated, then you're going to keep attempting to do things like get out and move your body, or become more social, or be more engaged at work, or even go to work, depending on your situation. And you'll keep failing, and then that will just contribute to the depression. So depression, it's really important that it be treated. And I have a lot of, I have personal experience with depression for sure. I have a lot of experience in working with clients. And my husband, Michael, is a therapist who has dealt with depression himself and specializes in the treatment of depression, did when he had a practice. And, I really learned from Michael, my husband, that getting treatment for depression, whether it involves medication or cognitive behavioral, changing your thinking, tapping is a great support for depression. Getting treatment is like putting eyeglasses on when you can't see well, putting eyeglasses on and being able to correct your vision. Then you can go about living your life. So I think that's important. I would encourage you to listen to the World Tapping Summit. It goes through Friday. Any of the tapping you do, honestly, with any of the teachers is going to help you for sure. You can tap along. Sometimes you can tap along with any issue, and you'll actually feel better. But I would start by getting some professional support, and then so if you were my client, and then you'd come back to me, would see what was going on, and then I would work with you from there. I would look at things like the state of your life. Are you happy with the relationships that you're in? Are you happy where you're living? Are you able to move your body on a regular basis? What's your diet like? Diet and movement have profound effects on depression. The challenge is, if you're clinically depressed and it's untreated, it's going to be very difficult to make the changes that are going to help you. And rather than set you up to fail, I'd want to set you up to succeed by making sure that you get that support first. So I hope that's helpful. And I'm going to add you to my prayer list. I have an ongoing prayer list that I've kept for years, and I am adding you to my prayer list. and asking God to bless you and to take good care of you. Okay, let's see. So go ahead and put questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to get to as many as I can while we're all here together. So Linda wants to know, if I'm an introvert, is it even possible to be the opposite and be an extrovert? I'm from Saskatchewan. So, my first reaction to that, Linda, is why would you want to be the opposite of what you are? I just want to sort of check that as the first thing that comes to me. Can you embrace who you are? I want to say that first. Can you embrace being an introvert? Number one. And then number two, in being an introvert, it's also important, I think, the more balanced we are, you want to make sure that you've got some social connection, social engagement. I think that's really important. And if your introversion stops you from being out in the world and, having consistent kind of social engagement that's fulfilling and nurturing to you, then I would start in simple ways. When I started at the CrossFit gym a year ago, my mind came up with all of the reasons why I shouldn't do it. I walked in, I was not in anywhere near the kind of shape that the other people were in. I felt out of my element because there were a lot of it's a small gym, but there were a lot of really athletic-looking men and women, a lot of athletic-looking women, unbelievably toned bodies. And my mind kept saying, you know what, this is a mistake. You should just leave. Nobody will even notice. You should just leave. And the introvert part of me was shy and self-conscious. And so I thought, well, what's the opposite of what I would normally do? And the opposite was smile and introduce myself to people. I wouldn't typically do that. And so, Linda, I had to really make myself do that. It was uncomfortable. But every time I smiled and said hello to somebody, they smiled back and said hello. And then eventually we'd start to chat and I'd get to know them. And I remember leaving the gym the very first day thinking, that wasn't so bad. It's not so bad. I need to be more, I need to put myself out there more in that very personal way in my community. So I think it's good to challenge yourself in small ways. Embrace your introversion. My husband, Michael's an introvert. He knows how to take good care of himself. He gets energy from being alone. He doesn't get energy from being out with people a lot, so he takes good care of himself. I've learned a lot from him about taking good care of myself as being a more extroverted woman. And so embrace your introversion, but make sure that you're also getting really good support, good social engagement. All right, let's see. Let's see. Hi, Cheryl. I would love some advice for overcoming fear and self-doubt. I know I sound like a broken record, Ellen, but I'm telling you right now, the tapping is wonderful. I used tapping for years before I would get on stage to give a speech, and that's a really scary thing to do. I've used tapping when flying, when I'm scared. I think it's important to remember to use tapping when you're have a lot of self-doubt. So Ellen, I would you can go back and look at some of my tapping videos. You'll also find them on my YouTube channel at Cheryl Richardson TV. But I would when you start with the karate chop spot, here's some of the statements I would use. Even though I'm afraid, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I have all this self-doubt, I love and accept myself. Even though I feel scared and self-conscious, I choose to accept these feelings. Even though I feel nervous about doing X, whatever it is, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. So the tapping is one thing I would recommend, Ellen. The other thing is taking it on as a project. In my third book, Stand Up for Your Life, there's a chapter called Build Your Courage Muscles. And that chapter is all about taking on fear and using it to build strong courage muscles. And I don't think it's a good idea to do that alone. I think it's a good idea to find a partner. There's got to be somebody else in your life, and maybe there's even somebody here in this community who would like to work with a partner and really take on this challenge of fear and self-doubt, in which case Ellen Powers Bent, you can reply to Ellen's comment here, and maybe you can connect with each other by phone or by Skype. take it on and commit to 90 days of overcoming fear and self-doubt. And you can use some of the process that I write about in that chapter. And you can also just say, okay, once a day, I'm going to do something to move me out of my comfort zone. The cool thing about that, Ellen, is if you were to imagine like a circle around you called your comfort zone, the minute you do something outside of your comfort zone, for example, when I joined CrossFit, which was way outside of my comfort zone, the comfort zone expands so that there are other things in your life that used to be scary that are no longer scary as a result. So that's the good news about facing fear and self-doubt. The only way we overcome fear and self-doubt is by doing something that makes us frightened and causes us to doubt ourselves. I mean, you can't think your way there. You've got to take some kind of action that will help you to overcome your fear. So don't do it alone. Find a partner who's just as committed to overcoming their fear and self-doubt. Speak to each other at least once a week. Make a commitment about certain actions that you'll take. This week I'm going to take on X. Or today, you could set a little fear each day or one kind of bigger fear for the week, and then check in with each other on a weekly basis. You can call each other in between to support each other when you're doing something like that. And I think you'll find that you'll start to feel better about it. It'll get easier. Yeah, is anybody else having trouble with the sound? Hopefully, just give me a thumbs up, letting me know again, or a heart, and letting me know you can hear me and you can see me just fine. Let's see. Yes, thank you. Can tapping help with grief? Absolutely. I lost my 19-year-old daughter this past October. I'm so sorry, Jill. Just in October and from a terrible car accident. Jill, let's do this. I'm going to do some tapping with you right now. Comment, Jill, and let me know that you're still here. Oh, yes. Okay, great. You're here. So, Jill, let's do this because I have used tapping with people dealing with grief a lot, and it makes a huge difference. I used it myself when my dad died in November. Like right off the bat, when we were rushing to the hospital to try and get there before he died, I couldn't breathe. I was so upset and I couldn't breathe. And my husband, Michael, said to me, start tapping. And I immediately just started tapping the collarbone spot, and it calmed my brain down so that I could breathe. So, Jill, let's all do this. Everybody tap with me, tap along with me. We're going to tap for Jill, who lost her 19-year-old daughter in October, who passed in a terrible car accident. And so let's all send her a whole bunch of love. And Jill, just follow along with me. I'll do this slow enough so you can follow along. Okay. Even though I have all this grief, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. And yes, anybody else who has grief, you can tap along on your own grief. Even though I've lost my beloved daughter, and I don't know how I'll go on, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Even though I'm so afraid of all this grief, because I don't know how I'll go on without my daughter, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Even though my daughter died in a terrible car accident, and I can't get that thought out of my head, I choose to release it now. Even though this grief feels overwhelming, and I'm afraid that it'll never go away, I choose to feel peaceful and calm. Then here's what we're going to do, Jill. Just follow along with me. This grief about losing my daughter, side of the eye, all this pain about losing my daughter, under the eye. I lost my daughter in a terrible car accident. Right here. What if I never get over this grief? Chin. I miss my daughter so much. Collarbone. Grief is hard. And then right under the arm, right here, about where your bra strap would be. This painful grief. and then top of the head. All this grief about losing my sweet daughter. And let's come back to the eyebrow point here. All this pain of losing my daughter. Right here, the loss, the grief, the unbearable pain, the unbearable loss. What if it never ends? Feeling overwhelmed. All this grief about losing my daughter. And we're going to do one more positive round right here. I feel peaceful and calm. I love and accept these feelings. I love and accept myself. I feel connected to my daughter. I remember that we don't die. I love my daughter, and my daughter loves me. I feel my daughter with me all the time. Right up here. I feel peaceful and calm. I feel connected to the spirit of my daughter. I call upon her for strength and peace, and she responds. And I know it. I feel it. I see signs. And I accept all of this. I accept this experience fully. And then take a breath, Jill. And if you go back and watch this and just keep using the tapping, Jill, notice, if you can, notice where we are in the timeline. I don't know if you can do that while it's live, but go back and find it, and then just keep going back to this, Jill. It will really help. There's another very important resource I want to share with you. I have a good friend, Bob Olson, who has a Facebook page and a website called afterlifetv.com. Afterlifetv.com, and then Afterlife TV on Facebook. Bob was a private investigator. He's dedicated his life to grief, to researching the afterlife. He's written a wonderful book, Answers about the Afterlife. And it's an incredibly comforting book to people who are grieving. So I would highly recommend, Jill, that you, as a matter of fact, Jill, if you send an email to chris@cherylrichardson.com, I'll send you a copy of Bob's book. chris@cherylrichardson.com. Again, it's afterlifetv.com. Check out his stuff. It's very helpful for people who are grieving. You'll find videos. Bob talks about grieving, and the book really is, it's a Q&A book all about the afterlife and death and grieving, and there's an unbelievable chapter section on suicide that has been enormously helpful to thousands of people. And so anyway, I hope that that's helpful, Jill. Thanks so much for trusting me with that information. So let's see, I'm going to scroll through here. Do people understand? Let's see. From Oregon, struggling, so Deborah, hi Deborah. Struggling with being a caregiver to elderly parents who live in New York intermittently and others. Feel like I'm caught between two worlds. Yeah, boy, you know, I kind of know what that's like, although my dad didn't live, I didn't have to get on a plane. So a few things, Deborah, I would say about that. First of all, and this is important, this is actually important for Jill, people who are grieving, people who are dealing with aging parents. This is what I've learned as someone who's done that. There are periods in our life where we are called to grow and evolve through very consciously and intentionally through the challenges we're faced with. And I think things like aging parents and grief, like when I look back at my life and the grieving, the losses I've had that have forced me to grieve, they have returned me to a deeper understanding of myself, a deeper connection to myself, a deeper love of myself, unlike a lot of things. Like loss and grief has really, really helped me to get to know myself better, to learn how to self-soothe, to learn how to comfort myself. And so grieving can be that invitation. Dealing with elderly parents, you'll only have elderly parents, you'll only have one set of elderly parents in this lifetime. And I get how challenging it is. It's not easy, it sucks sometimes, and there's just a lot to it. So I don't want to minimize the stress of this. And that said, Deborah, it became easier for me to deal with my dad when he was sick, when I realized that there were other things in my life that just had to be put aside. That right now I was going to be fully focused on what I had to learn, how I needed to grow through this lens of dealing with an elderly parent. So for example, if you have other siblings, part of what you might be being called to learn is how to delegate, how to take a stand for yourself without telling yourself stories like, well, they just don't want to be involved, or they live somewhere else. Well, then asking them to contribute financially to help, or sometimes dealing with aging parents teaches us how to ask for help, how to demand help. It teaches us how to get along better with our siblings, or to confront issues that haven't been addressed with our siblings. It teaches us about preparing for loss. I had a therapist that I worked with through my father's illness who was incredibly helpful. She said something to me, Deborah, once that I really took to heart and I used. This is an example of what I mean about growing and evolving. She said, always remember that your soul can talk to the soul of the people you're caring for, so that even if you have an elderly, like sometimes my dad was a real curmudgeon. He was just, he was uncomfortable, and he didn't like being immobile or being sick or dependent in any way. And she said to me, always remember that your soul can talk to his soul regardless of what's going on in the human drama field. And I would do that. Sometimes I'd go and I'd visit him in the hospital, and while he was sleeping, I would imagine my soul talking to his. And I would say things like, thank you so much, Dad, for all the lessons I've learned from you in this lifetime. I can't talk about it too much because I'll start crying. It's still, the grief is still fresh. Not that crying isn't okay. I mean, I'm a huge fan of crying. It's just I've got work to do here. But there's opportunities to heal things that need to be healed, whether it's directly with the person or not. There's opportunities to learn how to put some things aside that you would really like to you'd like to engage in, but to just recognize that, at this point in my life, this is what's on the agenda. This is what's on the spiritual agenda, which is the most important thing, learning to connect with our essence and to express our essence in the world, to bring more of our higher self and who we really are to the world. So Deborah, you are living between two worlds. The tapping would help too. Even though I feel like I'm living in between two worlds, I love and accept this reality right now. So rather than resist the reality, accept it, and then do your best to practice lots and lots of good self-care. That's really, really important at this time. I hope that's helpful. Sometimes just accepting the reality of what is, without the expectation of being able to do a whole bunch of other things. No, this is my spiritual project right now. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to make sure I take time. Sometimes you're going to have to set boundaries that don't feel good. There were times where I couldn't go to see my father. I couldn't do it. I was exhausted, or I was not in a good place, and I had to take care of myself. So sometimes you'll have to set some boundaries and allow other people to take over. Okay, I hope that's helpful, Deborah. Thank you so much for all your comments. Hi, Carrie, my sister Carrie. Let's see. Yeah, so Teresa lost a daughter also 15 years ago. Please make sure you go back and do the tapping that I did again. Okay, Elaine says, what do you do when everything in your life explodes or implodes? Yeah, a lot of people are experiencing this, have been for the last 2 years, I've found. I think I mentioned it last time I did Facebook Live. I call it cosmic rug pulling. where you might lose a job. I mean, Elaine lost her father, her house, had the shingles, no surprise, a hernia, and then you moved. Also, the people I thought were my best friends for decades were not friends at all. You know, I'm going to say something about that, Elaine, I'm going to say something to you that a lot of people probably wouldn't say to you as part of this, and I'm going to do it because I've been coaching a long time. First of all, sometimes it just feels like, you know, we have to find something to hold on to, and I think when there's this cosmic rug pulling, that's when we need like a strong spiritual core, whether it's going back to a church, even visiting an empty church and praying, whether it's praying, a meditation practice, something, 5 minutes a day of silence, like finding a spiritual core that you can hold on to is important. Sometimes, you know, life just hands us a lot of shit at once to deal with, and we can't deal with it alone. And so the thing I was going to say that's hard is sometimes when everything hits the fan, we can be pretty difficult to be around. And because most people can't say to somebody, you know what, I love you, but you're really hard to be around, people start to kind of disappear, or they're not as available. And a lot of times, lifetime friendships suffer. Now, sometimes they end because they're supposed to end. Like there really is this cosmic rug pulling going on. And there's a lot of loss, Elaine. I mean, the thing I can say to you is, from my experience, big souls take on big experiences like this. So you've got it in you to deal with this. But please don't deal with it alone. Getting professional help, if that's possible, even turning to a church, or if you have a women's health center, looking for a grief support group. A lot of hospitals will have grief support groups that are free or cost hardly anything at all. These sound like the 4 people I consider lifetime friends were just not there for me. These sound like first world problems, but I feel as if my entire world has changed. Okay, sweetheart, this is not, I would not call this first world problems, Elaine. These are big things. This is a lot. And so what that tells me is that if you were here with me, I would be giving you a big hug. I would probably just rock you for a long time. And I would say to you, just let yourself cry. Let yourself feel the pain of everything that you've lost. The life you've known, this is the hero's journey. This is the descent. I've spoken about this before. The first part is the descent, where the life as you know it no longer exists. And we are being dismantled piece by piece. And then we're plunged into the mystery, this period of time where you don't know what's going on, you don't know where you're headed, you don't know what's going to happen, and all you can do is just hold on. Sometimes, you know, white knuckling it through the mystery, reaching out for support. This is what I've done, reaching out to people, reaching out at times that I never would have reached out before, reaching out for support. And like you're doing right now, Elaine, thank you. I'm glad you're doing that. Reaching out for support, and eventually what will happen is the ascent period will begin, and you'll start to rise up slowly, and you'll begin to see light, and you'll begin to realize everything that's happening has the opportunity to serve, to bring you more fully and authentically into your life. But the first thing I want to say to you, this is not what I would call first world problems, sweetheart. You need someplace safe to just cry your little heart out for a while. You know, we've got to bring that pain up and out of the body. Also, moving your body, I think, is really important. And, you know, the shingles to me are an example, you know, just an indication that there's probably a lot of anger or frustration or suppressed feelings going on. And getting those feelings up and out is gonna make. I mean, you lost your dad, you lost your house. Are you kidding me? Those are, and then you've lost friends. Some of those friends may come back, and I would invite you to please keep the door open, because sometimes people don't know how to deal with someone who's embarked on a hero's journey. They just don't know what to do about that. So I'm putting you on my prayer list too, Elaine, right now. Yes, I am, my dear. All right. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, Jenny, I'm sorry. Your mom died too. Lots of losses these days. Do you work with people privately? I don't, Susan. Um, I don't work with people privately right now. I'm not sure if I will at some point, but the best thing you can do is make sure that you're subscribed to my weekly newsletter, because I do a retreat here in the northeast of the States twice a year. It's a small, intimate retreat with 50 women right now, although there's going to be one with men and women. So that's a way to work with me more one-on-one. I do a lot of one-on-one work there. But these Facebook Lives, and if you're subscribed to the newsletter, you'll know, should I ever decide to work with people privately again, number one, and number two, the other workshops and events that I'm doing. And I have a few things in the works that actually will support you. So Susan, make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. Let's see what else. Yeah, rug pulling, right? Let's see. Okay. Now you can choose how you want to. I'm just going through. How much tapping can help with physical disabilities? Absolutely. Particularly with a herniated disc, it can help with the pain. As a matter of fact, who was it? You know what else? Go to, I think it was Dawson Church. Dawson Church, who was in day one of the Tapping Summit. Nick has now kept him up all week long. So, Dorota, I would go to I'll put the link for the Tapping World Summit on here when we're done. I would go there and I would look for Dawson Churches, because he does a tapping sequence that's excellent, and I think it could really help with your pain. He also talks about pain in a way that I think is really great. Oh, Elena, you're welcome, sweetheart. Mwah, sending you lots of love. Okay. Okay. Andrea, how do you say no when people take advantage of you? It makes me feel horrible. Well, Andrea, the first thing to remember is the way to own our power is to recognize that we let people take advantage of us, right? It can feel like people are taking advantage of us, that it's happening from the outside in. But the reality is every time we say yes to something we'd really like to say no to, we are allowing people to take advantage of us. And in the beginning, it feels that way. It feels like the more we sort of point the finger, the more we're giving our power away, what it does is it just perpetuates this belief that wrongs are being done to us instead of we are behaving in such a way that isn't honoring our best interests. So saying no is difficult. At our core, most of the people who follow me and who read my books and come to my workshops and retreats are really loving, caring people. And they want to be there for others. They want to be supportive. And sometimes they just do it too much. And as a result, they get fried, resentful, tired, all that sort of stuff. So learning to say no can be challenging, but you can start in really simple ways. Now, when you say it makes me feel horrible, feeling taken advantage of, I'm assuming is what you mean. One of the things you can do, this is a great little trick that my first coach 22 years ago said to me that I teach all the time. I share all the time. I think it's so helpful. He said to me, Cheryl, because you're such a good girl, this is years ago, I'm not a good girl anymore. Just ask my husband. He said to me, because you're such a good girl, you've trained the people in your life to expect you to be there for them. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to the people in your general community, close community, and let them know that for the next 6 months, you're going to make your self-care a top priority. And what that means is, as a result, you're going to be saying no a lot more often than yes. And you want to let them know ahead of time so that they don't take it personally. They get that it's about you and your self-care. It's not about them. So Andrea, I would recommend that you do that, particularly with the people who you feel have been taking advantage of you, the people who ask a lot that you say yes to. I would go to them and I would say to them, tell them you had a coaching session with me. And I said that it's time for you to take a sabbatical from giving so that you can take good care of your health. And as a result, you're going to be saying no a lot more often than yes for the next 3 months, we'll say. and you love them, and you hope that, they don't take it personally, because it's really not about them, it's about you. And if they have a problem with that, then you've got a bigger problem than saying no. It's time to reevaluate some of your relationships. It doesn't mean that people are going to like it in the beginning. Some people are not going to like it at all. They're going to be like pissed off, and they're going to be like, no, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not going to do that? And they're going to push the guilt button, and they're going to push the, you're selfish button, or they're going to push the, you don't care about me, or you don't love me button. All of that, Andrea, is about them. It's not about you. Your job is to just say no. I love you. No, sorry. No, I wish I could. Don't even say that. Forget I wish I could, because you really don't wish you could. I'm sorry, I just can't. I love you and I wish you all the best. Just start practicing saying no. Remember, you have the power. People aren't taking advantage of you. You're taking advantage of yourself by not saying no when you really want to. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Just got news that I need a colonoscopy. Alice, what can I do to make this go well? Well, I had my first one when I turned 50, and I'm going to be honest with you, Alice. I'm going to tell you the drugs they give you beforehand were awesome. They give you some, it's a very quick procedure. You don't feel a thing. When I got there, I was, the hardest part of a colonoscopy, as they say, is the prep. So you plan to just stick by the bathroom for a day. But I went in and they gave me some kind of a relaxing, I don't even know what it was, but I was very relaxed. And I just remember thinking, wow, this isn't so bad. And then boom, I was out. And then when I woke up, I felt kind of woozy and mellow, and it really wasn't that bad. So some of the things you can do that I did that will make it go easier is, the 3, 4, 5 days even before the colonoscopy, just eat lighter. Maybe don't eat any meat. Yeah, conscious sedation. Thank you. That's what it's called. Don't eat any, if you can, I didn't eat any meat at all before my colonoscopy. And I really just, as the days got closer, I lightened my diet so that I would just not have a lot to eliminate. And I also, instead of mixing whatever that stuff is that they tell you, they told me anyway, at our hospital to mix it with Gatorade, which, just the color alone lets me know it's not good. I mixed it with coconut water, organic, clean coconut water, and that was really helpful. And then just start affirming, I have the most beautiful colon. I know people are going to laugh at me. I love my colon, and my colon loves me. And I'm so excited to just find out that my colon's happy, I'm happy. Just keep affirming, my body's happy. Here's a great affirmation that Louise Hay taught me. Alice, you can use this. Every hand that touches me is a healing hand. Every hand that touches me is a loving hand. Just keep affirming that. And then use the tapping also as a prep for the anxiety. I've done plenty of anxiety tapping sessions here that you can look at. Even though I'm nervous about getting this colonoscopy, I love and accept these feelings. And just use that, replace whatever I've tapped with around the anxiety with the colonoscopy, and you'll be fine. Let me know how you did. Make sure you come back and comment. I'm sure you're going to be fine. Okay. Charlene, what are your thoughts on EMDR therapy? Rapid eye movement, big fan. Think it's a great form of therapy, can be enormously helpful. Some people use EMDR with tapping. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Yeah, Andrea, so you were saying you're afraid you're going to lose their friendship. I'd be more afraid about losing yourself, Andrea, than losing friendships. Not that the fear of losing friendships isn't real. It is. And I can really appreciate and empathize with that. Here's the thing that's really amazing, Andrea. The more honest you get in your relationships, the deeper and more intimate they become. Doesn't mean everybody sticks around. Not everybody does. However, the people who do will appreciate knowing that you're doing something because you really want to do it. At this point, most of my friends know that they can ask me to do something and I'll be completely honest about whether or not I can do it. And that makes a big difference. So, okay. Scott, for a man. Hi, Scott. Glad to have the men here. What's the best way to deal with being discouraged turning 61? Feel 10 years younger. Sweetheart, how you feel, number one, is what really matters. 61's just a number. You know, Chris Northrup keeps saying, forget about your age at this point. Forget about the number. I will say this, Scott. I've found over the years that the people who most struggle with things like turning a year older or New Year's Eve, like another year gone by, are people who aren't living the way they want to live. So one of the things I'd explore with you, and again, I don't know you, so I'm just trying to kind of cover the bases. I would explore with you whether or not you're living life the way you want to live it. And are there some things in your life that you really wish were different? And is it time to take that on? Sometimes that can contribute to the discouragement we feel about time passing and about getting older. I have to tell you, Scott, I'm 57. Is that right? I'm 57. Yeah, I think I'm 57. I see, I don't even know because I don't keep track anymore. I have to like count. I was born in 59. Every year, I feel like my life gets, I'm not going to say it gets better. My life becomes a more and more true reflection of who I really am, and I love that. So I don't mind, like I would never want to go back. I don't mind getting older. And so it might just be what you're telling yourself in your head, what 61 means to your brain, when the reality is if you feel 10 years younger, keep doing whatever you're doing to feel as good as you feel. And, you know, I might be 57, but I'll tell you, I feel like I can lift more weight today than I could when I was 30. And, you know, I feel more alive, Scott, than I have ever been in my whole life. That's a big statement, but I do. I feel more alive in that kind of authentic way. So those are the things that I want to encourage you to focus on. And remember that a lot of times fear, self-doubt, discouragement is just a result of the thoughts we're thinking. So notice those thoughts that you're thinking, Scott, and start telling yourself, you know, 61 and having fun. You know, Louise Hay would do that every year. She would have like a fun rhyme theme for the year for her birthday, like 89 and feeling fine. I remember she's 90 now. I don't know what her theme is for this year or her saying, but 61 and having fun. Like, what could you do for fun? Make it a great thing, Scott. I hope that's helpful, and I'm so glad you're here. How do you deal with people who are verbally abusive? Do you avoid them? Absolutely. Because they drain the energy out of you. Yeah. So again, I don't know the specifics, Sarah, but people don't get to be verbally abusive to me. I don't think I have. I mean, the only time I think I ever am exposed to anybody being abusive is if I write something somebody doesn't like and they send me a mean-spirited email, which is very rare. I don't allow it in my life. So I remember one person I was dealing with years ago who would always, I want to protect their anonymity, but the way this person dealt with me was always yelling. You know, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. I was a boss. And I used to like scramble around. Oh my God, he's yelling at me. And then, you know, I got my ass into therapy. My therapist is like, why are you letting this guy yell at you? It's ridiculous. So I started to do things like I would go in and when he would start yelling, I would say to him, we'll call him John. John, you know, I can't hear you when you're yelling at me and I need you to speak to me in a regular voice. And if you can't do that, I can't listen to you. And he yelled even more. And I said to him, John, it's not okay for you to yell at me. I'm happy to hear what you have to say, but I need you to stop yelling. Otherwise, I'm going to need to leave. And he yelled again and I walked out of the room. That happened about 2 or 3 times. I didn't get fired. It happened 2 or 3 times. And the third time when I went to walk out of the room, he said, stop. And he stopped yelling at me because he realized he wasn't going to get away with it anymore. So I don't know who in your life is being verbally abusive. You don't have to be bitchy about it, but you just simply say, you know what? It's not okay for you to speak to me that way, and I'd like to ask you to stop. And if they continue, it's not okay for you to speak to me that way, And I'd like to ask you to stop. And if you're going to continue, I'm going to need to leave. And then make sure you leave if they continue, Sarah. Nobody has the right to be verbally abusive. Nobody. You're worth way more than that. Thanks, Leanne. How do you deal with fake friends? How do you deal with fake friends? I wouldn't have a lot of patience for fake friends. I would be bored out of my mind. It's getting warm in here. Your fake friends question's making me warm now. I don't know. I don't really have fake friends in my life. You know what I would do, Helen? I'd be asking myself how authentic I am. You know, I do believe that everyone that comes into our life is mirroring something about us that needs to be looked at in some way. I mean, this is how people become wonderful, give us wonderful opportunities to grow. I think of, you know, in my book, The Unmistakable Touch of Grace, there's a chapter about spiritual change agents. And I think the people in our lives who push our buttons are these beautiful spiritual change agents that are mirroring things that we need to look at within ourselves. And so I would want to know that if I had a lot of fake people around me, I'd have to look at how authentic I was being, you know, because as you start to become more authentic and honest, those people are going to be invited to do the same. Some of them will, some of them won't. Some people might have a hard time with that and they may drop out. So what? I mean, I don't know. You know what? The older I get, the less patience I have for cocktail level conversation and just bullshit. I mean, I just don't have any patience for that. I want deep, rich, meaningful conversation a good amount of the time. And I have to make sure I'm being authentic and real and honest in my relationships if I want that in return. So I hope that's helpful, Helen. Let's see. Vasvi says, Cheryl, I tend to sit with others' emotions rather than my own. Any tips to try and honor my own before theirs? Yeah. Here's a silly, simple little thing. You know what I say to myself when I catch myself, because I'm very empathic, when I catch myself sort of entering into the field of somebody else and feeling what they're feeling or imagining what they're feeling, I just say to myself, Vasvi, Cheryl, stay on this side of the line. In other words, I imagine a line drawn in front of me and I pull myself back over into myself on my side of the line so that I'm not in their business. And, you know, on one hand, Vasvi, one of the things I really love about myself is my empathetic heart and the way that I can tune into other people and the way that I love people. And it's also a burden when you don't manage that. And so just try that little trick from now on. When you catch yourself moving into the domain of someone else's emotions, just say to yourself, sweetheart, come back, stay on this side of the line. Let's come back here. And notice how that works. I bet it'll make a difference. Carrie, I'm nervous about making the decision to work with a new holistic healer for my endometriosis. And I'm looking for a sign that I should or should not go with it. I don't know what I see is. I'm trying to remember what that is. Carrie, I don't know if you know who Dr. Christian Northrup is, but she just did a, what did I see? A video, I think it was, on endometriosis. So if you go to her Facebook page, Christian Northrup, I think it's Dr. Northrup, just Google her, you'll find her. Hear what she has to say about endometriosis. I think it's really important. Making the decision to work with a new holistic healer, trust your gut. You know, look for the sign inside. It certainly can't hurt. I mean, that's the other thing I want to say, Carrie, is don't make it so significant. I mean, you know, when I was dealing with different medical problems, I wanted to be open to trying a lot of different modalities. I wanted to be able to really research and explore. Please, if you've not read Chris Northrup's books, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom in particular, read her book. It is the Bible. When I was coaching every woman I worked with, it was required reading. Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, and the Wisdom of Menopause. Chris knows this stuff, and she's, looking at both the emotional and the physical causes of illness, and she just did this whole thing on endometriosis. So there's your sign. Your sign is check out her stuff. I think it will be helpful. And then trust your gut. You have this wise woman inside of you who knows what the next step in being educated is all about. And trust her and support her. The worst thing that happens is you go and you don't like it, and you make another decision. I think sometimes what happens, as somebody who dealt with fibroids before menopause, I went through a period where I was desperate for an answer to try and save my uterus and to make sure, to try and deal with the medical problem. And I was looking for like the right answer. And what I learned was, it's a journey, and it was one of those spiritual projects that I talked about in the beginning of this session. I had to take that on as an invitation to get to know and understand and love myself more, and I did. And that's what's happening for you, Carrie. What a great invitation for you. All right, let's see what we have here before. Cheryl, I'm a hardworking lawyer, self-employed. I've been keeping myself really small, under-earning. I have not found clients or a good boyfriend who's good for me. How can I stop playing too small? Always stuck in a little corner. Demi, you would be a great candidate for a good coach. There's a guy that I used to coach years ago. His name was Mark Powers, and he started a coaching company. He was a lawyer, and he started a coaching company for lawyers. Atticus is the name that's coming to mind. Demi, Google Atticus and Mark Powers. They were all about how to increase revenues while decreasing personal production time. I went through their original program because I was going to be coaching him as he was the president of the company, and I wanted to learn what they were doing. They had a fantastic coaching program. Don't take this on by yourself. Let somebody help you. You'd be a great candidate for a coach. And the cool thing, Demi, is that as a coach helps you to sort of take a stronger stand, to raise your rates, to get organized, practice better self-care, better business self-care. As a coach helps you do that, you'll naturally start to kind of upgrade your sense of self, and you will naturally begin to attract an even better, healthier boyfriend. So it can work in tandem with each other, and a good coach can help you with both. So Mark Powers, Atticus, I'm hoping that I'm sure he's still around. So let's see. Okay. Oh, broth is also great prep for colonoscopy. Thank you, everybody. I love the way you support each other. Finally, okay. Let's see. Let's just do one more. Okay. Cynthia, I'm going to... Excuse me. I knew I was going to sneeze. I was like waiting for it to come up. Cynthia, my longtime boyfriend is showing signs of early onset dementia. I want to love and support him, but he is sometimes cruel to me. Cruel's a really strong word, Cynthia. I would encourage you to get some counseling. That to me is probably more of a therapy issue than a coaching issue. And if he isn't willing to go to counseling, I mean, chances are, I don't know if he knows that he's showing signs of early onset dementia. If he's been diagnosed, the cruelty may be coming out of fear. Sometimes men will, not just men, but a lot of times men, but men and women, fear can express itself as anger. But if it's cruel and it's consistent, you need to get some support. If he won't go with you, then go by yourself and let the therapist know what's going on, and let him or her know that you want to really evaluate this relationship, and you want to evaluate how you're being treated, and you want strategies for setting some boundaries so that you're not treated in a cruel way. Psychology today, for everybody who's, I talk about therapy a lot because I'm a huge advocate of deep healing work. Psychology Today has a wonderful Find a Therapist section. I find that they've got some really great people, and I refer people to that website a lot. So I would check that out, Cynthia, and I hope that helps you. Okay, so Valentina, I'm on a roll of productivity and positivity and very motivated to accomplish my goals, but I have what I call down days during which I feel out of control and just hopeless and overwhelmed. How can I keep those not so good days in check? Well, it's funny. My first thought, Valentina, when you said I have down days, well, given the fact that you're being productive and positive and motivated, I was thinking it's probably good that you have some down days. Rest days. I wonder how well you're resting. I wonder if you're pacing yourself. I find that over time, I've learned some little magic tricks for recognizing that the more I rest, the more productive I am in shorter periods of time. So I don't know I don't know about the feeling out of control and just hopeless and overwhelmed. Okay, here's what I'd say to you. This is what's going to help you figure that out, Valentina. 10 minutes of silence a day, the practice of presence. I've spoken about it before. Set an alarm. My challenge to you is once a day for 2 weeks, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed, although it will be difficult at first. I want you to just sit quietly, set an alarm for 10 minutes, close your eyes, breathe, and just keep bringing your thought back. You might want to focus on a word or a phrase. I focus on the word peace. Sometimes I see it in front of me, and I just keep bringing it back to, I keep bringing my thoughts back to peace, bringing my thoughts back to the present moment. In the beginning, it's hard because your mind's going to tell you, I forgot, did I lock the door? Is the phone going to ring? It's going to tell you all these different things to try and get you to stop. You just got to hang in there. Keep focusing on your word. And that will help to reveal to you a bit more about what's going on with this feeling of out of control. One of the ways that we can I've done it long enough now. The other day I was meditating and it was supposed to be 10 minutes. And when I looked up, it was like 50 minutes, 50. And I thought, I'm really just learning how to do this so that if I feel like I'm spinning out, I know I need to sit down and pull my energy back into my body and get centered again. And that will become a beautiful, beautiful practice for you that will help you to learn more about what's really going on, what's causing the feelings of being out of control, what's causing you to feel overwhelmed. When we feel overwhelmed, our natural tendency is to engage the mind and to start making lists. And, the more I can figure out all that needs to be done, the quicker I'll feel better. When the opposite is true, you will be more productive and effective when you stop, breathe. 10 minutes of silence synchronizes both hemispheres of the brain, brings you into balance, and then afterwards you'll be a lot clearer and better able to make good decisions. All right? Valentina, I hope that's helpful. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me. I know it's been an hour, and I'll do this again. I put a notice in my weekly newsletter, so please, there's a sign-up button. You'll see it right here on Facebook. If you click on that, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that's where I announce the Facebook Lives first and foremost. I'd love for you to join me. I will post the Tapping World Summit link again for those of you that, and remember Dawson Church, his presentation is running all week, and it's an awesome one. Awesome Dawson, I call him. He's got a great laugh. And I'll post a few other links to some of the things that I talked about, and I will look forward to our visit again next week at some point. I don't know exactly when, but I'll let you know. In the meantime, remember, we started out with a little self-care tip. Get out and move your body. Look at trees. Look at birds. There's a whole bunch of crows and doves below my bird feeder right now. Look at trees. Look at birds. Get out. Smell the air, regardless of what the weather's like. Put a hood on or get an umbrella if you need to. But get that beautiful body of yours out into nature. And take good care of yourself. And I'll see you next week. All right? Yeah. Love you all. Bye.